Of the Missing Lady, Episode 1. Suddenly, his eyes opened and he found himself in the middle of a forest. It was a dark, moonless night, and he had no idea how he had reached there. He looked around, and all he could see was trees and darkness. He could hear low, shrieking sounds of different animals and some shining eyes behind the bushes. He knew that he was trapped. He did not know where to run. He tried to get up and found out that his legs were tied with the vines of the old trees around him. He could feel as if the trees were staring at him for disturbing their peace. The shrieking sound grew. He tried to release his legs from the strong clutches of the vines, but the more he tried, the more he was getting tangled in it. He could hear the rustling of dried leaves and looked toward it. There was no motion in that direction. Slowly, he tried to slide towards the side, and in the meantime, he was trying to remove the vines from his legs. He looked around for anything which could help him in escaping, but there was nothing except for vines and dry leaves. He was still confused as to what was this place. He had never been to this place. He did not see any option to escape from this situation when suddenly he saw someone in front of him. Who are you?" She stood there silently looking at him. "Are you?" Before he could complete the sentence, she flew near him and looked in his eyes. She slowly tilted her head towards left, then to right. Slowly, he also followed the movement of her head as she did. Her face had the innocence of a child. She had doe eyes, sharp nose, and beautiful lips. She said nothing, and in a flash, she swept him away from that location, and they were standing in a location near the bank of a lake. He knew the place. This lake was near his town. He thought, what was he doing here, and who is she? While he kept on thinking, he saw her sliding over the lake and looking at him. He could not understand what happened when she suddenly came near him, and her facial expression changed. Big, hollow eyes and nose, mouth wide open, face entirely wrinkled. Her clothes suddenly changed from pure white to tattered, dusty, covered in blood. She came near him and let out an ear-deafening shout and fell on the ground. He saw her flying around the lake. As he was looking at her with a horrifying look, suddenly the entire area became dark, and after that, his eyes opened. He was lying on the bed, sweating, as he saw the fan moving slowly with a creaking sound. It was 2:19 a.m. He got up from the bed and moved toward the kitchen to get some cold water. He bent down a bit and opened the refrigerator door, removed a bottle, and closed the door. As he stood straight, he realized someone was behind him. He could feel the warm breath on his neck. He stood still for a moment. Slowly, he tilted his head towards left. He could see a dark shadow behind him. He adjusted his vision to see the reflection of what was behind him. He saw there was nothing behind him. As he turned around, he was startled and fell back as he saw someone standing in front of him. He shook in fear. He lost his voice. The bottle fell from his left hand, splashing water everywhere. He was on the floor trying to go back, but his back was stuck to the refrigerator. It was the same lady who came in his dream. Was that a dream, or is this a dream? He could say nothing. The lady came nearer, and he could see her face. She had tears in her eyes, and she wanted to say something, but her voice was inaudible. What is it?" Abhay spoke slowly, looking at her. She was trying to say something. She started flying around the room, throwing away objects, and after some time, she vanished in thin air, leaving Abhay lying in a pool of water with all the mess around created by her. Suddenly, his eyes opened and he realized he was dreaming once again. He got up and checked the kitchen. Everything was spotlessly clean. After that, he retired to his bed, but could not sleep. And he realized the sun was coming out, and he heard the chirping of birds. He got up, had his cup of coffee, and started getting ready for his office. He was still confused regarding the dream. Episode 2. Abhay had his first dream when he was a 5-year-old. He was so afraid and depressed that he had to be taken for counseling. But the dreams never stopped, and he made a pact with the dreams. He realized that these dreams are not normal dreams. He could see what others could never see. He had the vision. His counselor dismissed it as dreadful nightmares. He was on medication for a long time, but still, the dreams kept coming on till he was 12, when he understood what those dreams were. One evening, he was coming back from his friend's place when he saw some police cars in front of a house. He stopped over to see what was happened. He saw the police taking a middle-aged man in handcuffs. "What's happening?" he asked a bystander. "I don't know much, but heard that the police are taking him for questioning for his involvement in the murder of his wife, whom he had reported missing a few days ago." Abhay stood there looking at the house. He was surprised by the involvement of the husband, but he did not express it. He knew about the murder, but he was not sure whether it was the husband or someone else. Once, while Abhay was coming back, he saw the lady standing outside on the balcony. Suddenly, her husband came and shouted at her to go inside. Abhay stood there for some time and thought about the lady. She never came outside. They never attended any parties. They both never used to go to any places together. Everywhere the man go, he would go by himself, including all the household chores. They remained aloof from their neighbors as well. A few weeks ago, Abhay had a vision where he saw a lady covered in blood lying near a lake. It was a blurred dream, but he, along with his friend Vipul, were able to stitch all the pieces together and were able to realize that a murder had taken place in their town and that they need to report it. They posted an anonymous letter to the police station informing them about the location of the body. Just a few days back before the letter, the husband had reported a missing complaint about his wife. The police were desperate for a clue and checked the location, and they found the body. It was an age-old lake, and no one visited the area as it was densely surrounded by forests and wild animals. Abhay could only tell the police about the body. He could not decrypt his entire vision. The investigation started. The proof showed the murderer to be the husband, and that day, while Abhay was returning, he saw the police taking the husband for questioning. In a few days, the police got a confession from the husband and certain eyewitness stating seeing him carrying a heavy black bag in his car. The police filed a foolproof charge sheet against the husband, and through the quick trial, the judge awarded him with life imprisonment. The husband never appealed in the higher courts and accepted the punishment, which further cemented the fact that he had killed his wife. The police revealed nothing about the letter, but they were thankful for the tip. In the coming years, Abhay and Vipul became their anonymous source who would provide them with important information. The officer in charge was happy as some unsolved cases were getting solved. Years passed and the OC changed, but the information kept coming. Cases were getting solved. Episode 3. 15 years have passed, and Abhay still has those visions. But this vision seemed to be persistent. This was different. He felt it was like a dream inside a dream. I really should stop watching Hollywood movies. Abhay worked as a senior hardware service manager for a multinational company. He preferred spending time with the machines rather than people. He had no friends in the office, and people in the office thought of him as the strange guy. People were apprehensive about going to him for any hardware support. But as he was the best in his job, people reluctantly used to go to him. Abhay started for his office, but his mind was clouded by the last night's dream. I have to talk to Vipul. With this, he messaged him, meet me at our place at 8 p.m. tonight. I have a new one. He received a message. Okay, see you in the evening. Thinking about it, he punched his card and moved towards his cubicle and got busy with his daily work. The bar was overcrowded. Abhay and Vipul were sitting in the corner of the bar. They kept the beers on the table and they sat quietly. Abhay had informed him regarding the dream. Listen, Vipul, this is serious. I know the lake. This was the same lake where the police had found her. Are you sure, Abhay? How can it be possible? No one visits that place, asked a surprised Vipul. Exactly, Vipul. That made the place a safe haven for someone to dispose of the dead body, informed Abhay. So, what do you intend to do, Abhay? As usual, shall we inform the police? Asked Vipul. He thought for some time and said, let's go there ourselves. I don't know, but I'm getting a feeling that this is not just an ordinary murder case. Are you sure? We have always stayed anonymous and have helped the police to solve many cases. Why should we risk ourselves this time? Questioned Vipul. Listen, Vipul, I understand your concern, but this time I feel like we have to get involved and solve it, said a persistent Abhay. Vipul had no other option than agreeing to Abhay. Vipul works as an IT analyst in the same MNC where Abhay works and prefers slaying demons and zombies in his Xbox console rather than fighting them in real lives. Even though I do not have any option except for agreeing to be part of your madness. I have been a part of your madness since so many years as well, said Vipul with a laugh as they cheered their glasses. I have thought about it, and tomorrow night we would visit that place, said Abhay. With this, Abhay finished his beer, called for the bill, and said, you are paying this time. Vipul just looked at him and paid the bill. They parked the car in front of the dense forest. They looked around and moved inside the jungle. They clicked their lights on and moved towards the jungle. The jungle was off limits to all, but there was no one guarding the jungle except for the animals. You have been here so many times, but this is the first time you are coming here in real, started Vipul. Abhay remained quiet as he was trying to concentrate on the route. They moved through thick, dense trees, overgrown grasses, and hanging vines all over, which looked like snakes hanging all around. They could smell the damp earth amalgamated with old fallen leaves. The earthly smell had a calming effect on both of them. They cut through the vines and moved toward their destination. After some time, they reached an open area. The aroma of the forest was sweet. The lake reflected the moonlight, which looked like a thick sheet of silver covered the lake. It was soothing and yogi still. The lake made a faint splashing sound when he hit it against the banks. The thistles prickling his leg broke his thought, and he looked around for any clue. The owl hooted, and they could even hear the distant howls of animals. The place was not at all safe for anyone. At the other end, Abhay saw a slight disturbance in the lake's stillness at an end and pointed Vipul towards it. Vipul, over there, said Abhay. They both ran towards that part. They stood on the bank of the lake and tried to look inside. I have to go inside, said Abhay. Are you mad, Abhay? Let us inform the police and get them to handle this, said Vipul. We have been doing it always, But this time I felt as if the spirit was requesting me to search for it, said Abhay. With it, Abhay dived into the lake. He went a bit deep inside it and looked for any clue which could help him. After some time, he came up gasping for breath. He was panting when he came out of the lake. He sat on a rock and said nothing. What is it, Abhay? Did you find anything? Questioned Vipul. I don't know, but I felt like there is something beneath the lake. We should talk to our friend in the police, said Abhay. A pair of eyes looked at them from within the dense forest. The eyes did not move until Abhay and Vipul left the place.